Hi guys, I know that's a really weird angle and I still really haven't worked out where to look when I'm on long. I don't think it's over there and I look awful, but that doesn't matter because we have times where we look awful and then we have times when we don't look awful. And really, my main thing, I wanted to give a message for young people that are feeling the way I feel, spiritual awakening, all of the pressures of like your inner mind that you feel like everyone around you doesn't feel like that. I was just such a lonely place to be sometimes when you're like in your deep darkness, especially when you're young. Like I was always in my deep darkness. Like, to be honest, I was given a lot of skills when I was born. I could have done anything. I could have been really good at maths. That was my first move in life, was to try and be an accountant. And I got so far in A levels and was doing really well. And then I ended up quitting because of the partner that I'm with now was flirting with loads of girls. And it's just a long story. But right, so at the time, it seemed like a disaster. And it's only when you get older, like over your 30s, I'm 34 now, as you can tell, and I need to buy some beauty products and stop my habits. Cause like no one's perfect. I've been smoking other than when I've been pregnant, on and off. Well, no, yeah, since I was 12, and yeah, but it could have been worse. And I've took so many angles and twangles, and at one point I literally could have been an accountant, then I literally could have been like an MC or a song producer, like in the rave scene. And then I let all that go, and at the time it's really painful to let it go because I was making a family and I had 2 children and now I have 4. And on the road of having the children, I've really struggled at different points to it's very hard in life when you're closing doors on opportunities, to see that when you're closing a door on an opportunity, you're not missing out on anything because you're going to do something else. And inevitably, if you're not doing that thing that you know you are capable of doing right this second, then you're not supposed to do it right now. And maybe you're never supposed to do it. And apparently what the 999 portal's been about recently is letting go of things you've been working on for 9 years that haven't come to anything. And it's different when you're 21 or in early 20s. Obviously, looking back when you're 9 was when you were 12. So it's different for me. But for me, I did actually at one point really try and think like, I could be a singer, I could be a musician and that. And I've decided these days that it's just a hobby of mine. And I didn't work as hard as I should have. I ended up one point trying to make a few songs on like Guitar Pro and different DAW, DAW, I learned about it all. And then I ended up on a singing app doing karaoke songs, going through my whole personalities, doing every song I've ever known. And then like last year, I looked back and thought, God, what, you've wasted all that time. You could have been good at producing music by now. You could have done this, you could have done that, but I didn't. I did this and I did that. But have I had fun? Yes, I have. And since I let go of the seriousness of myself, which helped me through seeing my character through singing different songs and that, and I awakened lots of the sides of my characters that I had squashed down in me because I've learnt to suppress myself since I was very young. It just felt like everything was always against me in life. Like every time I've tried to get high on something, I'd come out in spots or cold sores, or like I've had a cyst removed on my cheek in early 20s and it got burnt out, and it was just, I've just had so many like things getting in my way of trying to go into a certain direction that I thought was right for me. And when you're having self-resistance against the direction that you want, it can be so frustrating. You think, what is God against me? Oh God, my thing just went on 10%, but still, yeah, is God against, am I against myself? And you can go deep and dark and you can surface the dark, but I think until you actually say, do you know what, and just like rebel a little bit to the point where like close people are like, what are you doing, and you know exactly what you're doing, whether it's you're on a high or you're on a low. But as the further you go into those highs and lows, you're creating a larger paradox for yourself. Is that the right word? Like a larger up and down. You're creating more space for yourself, and you're learning more about yourself. And it takes bravery, it takes cancellations, it takes being a hermit to a degree. That's my advice anyway. But I am not perfect, and I have still got loads to work on. But let me just say, at 34, I have no driving license. That is crazy. I smoke. I don't drink that much. I party like once a year at the moment, which I'm really pleased with myself, because at one point I nearly went down roads, like we all do in our early 20s. We're trying to work ourselves out. We have experiences with whatever you want to have experiences with. I don't like to talk too much personal, but you know what I mean. But you can go far in your mind and your health, and then you need to learn when to come into your health. And it is literally individual for everybody. But if you feel like there is nothing to be low about and you are stuck in your like grip of yourself and you're young, it is just your age. And honestly, like, everything is so intense, and it damn well should be, because there's a lot riding on every decision. Like, if I hadn't have smoked loads, I'd look much better. And but you can't. You do come to a point, I think, where you realise you're just dwelling, and then you're wasting the opportunities you've got. Because, like I said, like, right, so I've not got a driving licence. That means I can't get about properly, but it does allow me to do other things. And for some reason, even now, I know that I should get a driving licence, I just won't get one. I won't get in that car, and like, I don't know why, but you can, if you're stubborn like this and you have strong reactions to daily emotions, it can be really hard to get out the intensity of yourself. And I think what you've got to do is you've got to lighten up. You've got to find your silly side as much as you can. You've got to learn to laugh at yourself and your failures. See them as achievements, because I tell you, the only reason you're failing those feelings that you want to grab in that day is because they're not meant for you on that day. And that's probably because deep down, these roads aren't meant for you. And that can be very frustrating. And even now, half of me feels like I could pick this up and I could pick that up. But thankfully, you do get a little bit older and harder to pick things up. And then you start to settle into your own ways. Unless you do get a driven feeling to do that thing and you put everything into it, that's possible as well. But I know exactly the frustration of just the self not shifting where you think you want to shift it. But remember, there is no such thing as doing nothing. So when you're not investing time in something, you are investing it for something else in the future. And unless you feel intense, low anxiety and just, or then you're not going to appreciate when you get a bit older and come out of it. Do you know what I mean? And I know I heard someone say about just not being able to get out of bed. And I had that my whole youth, just not being able to go to sleep and not wanting, and a deep feeling of like, life is short, I'm not going to bother on this life and I'm going to just give up. Not exactly suicidal, but just a very deep inner depression that no one else could understand. And I've just learned to look at it in the face and then fight it as much as I can. Like at the moment, especially in autumn, when everything is breaking down, there is a breaking down of the happiness. And I'm a bit dwelly, but I'm not nervous about my dwelling. And I heard a good someone saying about thinking of depression as the person that comes to the door. And before they used to move in and you never used to be able to get rid of them. But now they knock at the door and you can tell them whether to come in a bit, and you express it through movement and sound and singing, or take it for a walk. But then you need to learn when to tell it to bloody go. And that takes a practice of learning to get to know the darker self. And most of us haven't got time to miss out on the opportunities of life to go into the darker self. And thankfully for me, health things have come in the way that have stopped me from going into certain paths. Once I was doing a typing job and getting right into a sales job, and my hand crippled up to a point where the doctors couldn't even explain it. And then it was only saved by being pregnant. And I didn't plan any of my pregnancies. And look how tired I look. And I love having 4 children, but I don't have lots of money. I don't even have an income, me personally. I'm in a relationship with my best friend since I was 14, and it's never not been perfect at all. And at one point, even last year, we were having so many arguments, you know, and it gets to a point, but we have not had a full-on argument since for nearly a year. So it's the same with relationships, it's the same with your own life, and you just have to take each decision just very carefully. And I know exactly how it can feel to just feel that 1 minute you're divinely supported, the next minute you're out on your own and you're celebrating the devil. So, but there's nothing wrong with that, and you have to learn the 2 sides of yourself, you know. And good luck basically with being creative, because you are creative in every moment and every second that you're alive, and that might just be a small amount of creation. You're still being creative if you want to hide, you know. And in my advice, the more you preserve your energy, you still have it more when you're older, you know. You can burn yourself out in your 20s, and I know many people that have burnt themselves out on drugs, on life, on money, on success. You know, just, you can burn yourself out in a million ways. And one thing I always remembered was, like, people like Marilyn Monroe, for example. She was the most beautiful, successful, loved woman in the world, but so deeply lonely. And all she wanted was children. And I have, you know, and I have the children, and not maybe the big successful life. Not that I wanted to be like a superstar, I mean, like, but just a big successful life, whether that was an accountant, driving even. But you're not, success is in the perspective. And you could say that's successful of me that I haven't learned to drive, because I'm an eco fucking warrior for it. No, you know what I mean? And I'm also humbleized to just getting to know my own area. And the more you humbleize yourself, you can be in a space, and I know we're not always in that space, where you just appreciate a lot smaller shit. Like, as much as I'd love to go around traveling, I appreciate the fact that I can watch the Maldives on the TV. And my life is short, and I can't have it all. I can't be successful and rich and have fortune. I could, well, but not right now. And who knows? And I just prepared to enjoy every single day for whatever it brings, whether that's a low day or a good day. This is being built into me, and it's being built into me through practice, like, you know. And that is a practice of going low, going high, causing that foundational routine. Like, some of us struggle to brush our teeth and that. And at one point, I swear, in my 20s, I used to just, like, walk around in a dressing gown if I could. Didn't go to any baby clubs, not washing my face properly, not brushing my teeth, like going to quite a self-low one. And when I look back now, I don't recognise that person. And I feel like I let go of that side of myself. I rinsed it out so much more by being in it, where I could have latched onto that side of myself forever if I hadn't have just rinsed it out and let it go. Release whatever does no longer serves you. And you're not going to release what no longer serves you until you release it. So if you're being pulled to have space, but this is on your back, that's on your back, these plans, you try going into what you're being pulled with. In my case, what I've been pulled towards has given me the best loving relationship I could ever imagine. Saying that, look, I'm laughing because, you know, we're not perfect. We are fucking not perfect. But I love him so much, and he loves me. And it's so easy in any moment of your life to just take things for granted. Taking breathing for granted, taking being alive. This person that I'm trying to reflect this video back to is full of life, just with everything. And people need to just realise that they are so hard on themselves, and you cannot see yourself as others see you. And that is a good thing, because that's what makes you graceful. There is such a fine line between going out in life and just grinding success, you know. And then, you know, you could be the most successful person and then someone dies. You know, life has a very funny way of showing you curves and wangles, and you will weigh up your success in all different ways, but you will decant in other directions. Like, and I swear on my life, my 4 children are some of the most, the aura around my children. They will go off into different directions of life with spice and knowledge, and they've been given all sorts of situations to study, you know. And sometimes what you want, you don't, when you're young, would be probably the last thing you even know you want. Because if the ego wants one thing, the soul wants one thing, and then there is the final choice. And I think whatever choices you make, there will always be a sum up when you get to a certain age. But you'll see what you lost, and you'll see what you gained, and then you'll try and see what you can get, and it will just continue forever. But when you're in that budding moment, like, you know, like on heat of life, it can be just so bloody... Well, everyone wants you to do your best, don't they? And sometimes not everyone knows what's best for you. They just want you to be safe, just like your subconscious. And sometimes you know better than just being safe and happy and yeah, you know. And I've done that role, and I've put it on well, and it didn't serve me too bad to put it on either. And it's just about knowing when you've got to be there for other people and when you've got to be there for yourself. And, you know, you'd be an idiot to completely go with your dark side. It can happen to the best of us. And it can happen. I've had a few months before where I just haven't tidied up properly, and I've watched a lot of TV, and I've probably had a lot of people slagging me off because of it. But it didn't bother anyone, and I was fine, and my kids were fine, and everyone was fine. Just remember how judgmental people can be, and how, like, they probably even see some of your bad, intense, sort of dreary behaviour as bad, because of deep down they'd love to have the confidence or the space or the time to be able to go into one themselves. And when you find yourself going into one, you know, just what do you need at that time? Self-soothe, whether it's just aggressive exercise, whether it's the lying down, whether it's just bloody music, crying in the mirror, or having a good old fucking laugh with yourself, or singing some of the most aggressive songs that you know you probably shouldn't sing. And, you know, just, yeah. But it's just so hard to see this, and it goes so fast as well. That's the thing, it goes so fast. And now being 34, I can see myself being 50 straight away. But I've changed so much in the last year. Then, like, and every year you look back at yourself as a baby, and there's nothing wrong with that. Learning, seeing, resetting, you know. So I hope that was some sort of use. And I'm sorry, that I'm old and I'm not looking in the camera properly. But yeah, okay. And just remember, people are kinder these days. It's so much harder for my generation, I think, where we were all bloody hard as hell, and it was just so judgmental back then. You couldn't be yourself at all. It was just full of bullies. The internet has changed a lot of people's personalities, and, you know, just be yourself. And if that means that you're almost sucking off others, like you're not making much success, you're not bringing in a massive income, but people love you, you know, and people will look after you if that's what you need to do. You need to take a large break before you hit success. You will find your way of getting your income, and you'll find a way of missing out on certain things. I'm sure there's nothing really more useful I can say. But cheers. And stay young, stay yourself. Just stay sound. Much love. Cheers.